Yes, welcome to obviously the YouTube channel that delivers the most source on the internet. So obviously today we're going to go through the Freedom Sales system. Now it's going to be about a 30-minute funnel walkthrough on what actually is this system that we're talking about, okay? And this is kind of what Echelon bases its operations, its process, its progress, and everything above around, right? This is what we bring the boys through. This is what we teach them from the start. And without a doubt, it's the one that gets the most success. Sweet. So going through, obviously, if you're actually watching this, you probably don't hate your life, right? But you're obviously watching this for a purpose. If that's your in setting, if that's you're trying to get into a side hustle, if you're trying to start something new, you probably wake up, right? And you do what you're supposed to do. You carry out your responsibilities, you go to work, you know that by 6 o'clock you might have to come back and feed the dog, all right? But deep down, you know this isn't just it, right? You know this is just the beginning, right? You're capable for so much more than you're actually settling for right now. And this is the frustrating part, all right? When you are in a 9 to 5, when you are comfortable, when you are wanting to get out of a certain environment, a certain loop, it can be quite frustrating to get your head around because sometimes there's not a clear pathway out of there. Sometimes you've tried different things and it hasn't worked out. So you think that it's an endless loop. And today we're going to cover why you're not actually making a change, right? Why every single time you commit to something, you're not actually carrying it out and you're not actually gaining success out of it. Right? So it's not that life is terrible, right? It's that feeling that you are smaller right now than you should be, right? If that's Dubai, if that's living in a hot country, if that's being able to provide for your parents, right? Earning 2K a month when you know you could be worth so much more. So what is the actual core problem? Well, I can tell you that the core problem is hard work isn't the solution. And this is a massive misconception, right? You know, when you're younger, you know everyone's grown up. I've been told the same. I think everyone around me's been told the same, right? Hard work pays off. You get out what you put in. Yada, 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 right? But in this scenario, it's not because hard work is bad, right? Because you need hard work. You need, that work ethic. You need that discipline, right? But it's because hard work without leverage traps you in the exact same space that you have been and that you will continue to be in, right? So what do I actually mean by that? Well, most people were given a plan, right? That looks responsible, right? But not necessarily leading anywhere. So for example, you get a job, you go to school, you get a job, you work your way up, you're going to get bonuses, you get promotions, and hopefully you can become a director or even the best, a CFO or CEO or, one of the board members. That's at the top, right? But the realization is that your income is capped. It is without a doubt, right? Your time isn't yours and your future depends on someone else's decisions. Right, so no matter how hard you work, right, you can work your arse off, going through school, getting the top grades, getting the best A-levels, getting the best GCSEs, getting a uni degree, a first in economics, right? You can work your way up through the job. You can get, be the best employee of the month. You can get promotions. You can work as hard as you want. But what's that going to lead you to? Well, a capped income, a time where you don't have much flexibility. You can't just go on holiday when you want, how you want to, where you want to. You need to go through a certain process. And your future is essentially building someone else's dream, right? And your job, your wage, your taxation, your whole livelihood depends on other people's decisions and how they view you and value you as a person. And you could be valued at so much less than you are known and capable for. And sometimes it isn't reflected, and that's the horrible situation. And I was in that exact situation that you're in. So actually going through, why most people fail these side hustles, right? And I talked a little bit about it on my reels, but to give you more of an insight, it's not because of the side hustle, right? It's not because of MMA, drop shipping, trading, e-com, even appointment setting, OFM, AIOFM. It's none of them, right? And it's not because of the mentor of the program. Okay, hands down, there's some scams out there, right? But if you do your due diligence and you actually take some time to watch some YouTube videos, you like these, and go out and see who's valuable and who's actually going to teach you and spend time teaching you, then the mentor of the program is never the option to blame, right? And it's not because of laziness or time constraints. You work a 9 to 5, everyone's worked a 9 to 5. Most people that are entrepreneurs now worked a 9 to 5 and had to manage their time in order to get out of their 9 to 5, because they didn't just drop their job to start up this imaginary business, right? They had to build up over time. And I can tell you now, it's not because of work, school, or family. If anything, those should be the motivators for you wanting to start a side hustle, for you to get into something. So you don't have to go to work, you don't have to go to school. You can have more time with your family. You can spend more time on your family. You can provide more for your family, right? And it's not because of a lack of direction, right? No one has a direction as such, right? Through the world. You don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. You don't know what next week's going to hold. All right, you may have some things in your calendars, but you're not going to have a plan which tells you everything. No one does. We're not some spirits. We're not some gurus that know everything, right? So this is just a mixture of externalizing the excuses, right? If you go through and reflect on every single one, tell yourself, you definitely said one of those. And I can tell you now, you definitely have blamed one of them. And if you haven't, then you're lying to yourself, because I think everyone else has that I know around me. And it is human psychology, right? You're just trying to protect your identity, right? So you tell your environment around you, your mum, your sister, your friends, your best friends, that it was his fault, or it was the work, it was time constraints, it was the mentor, or it was, I just didn't have enough direction, or I didn't know how to set up a store, or, it was just like gambling. Listen to yourself, reflect and listen to yourself, because all you do is say it's an external factor, right? You're externalizing it. So what is the actual cause of failure? What is it? Well, it's a lack of systems and accountability. The whole point of my job as a closer, my job as a mentor, is to reframe your perspectives. And some people don't get in contact with people like myself. There's thousands of people that can do the same. And they don't get in contact with a conversation which is one-of-one, which is a wow conversation, which is a conversation where they can step back and realize what they have been doing. Exactly that, externalizing, protecting their identity, never stepping into any discomfort. And without that kind of contact and that relationship and those nodes of communication, people can very much just get stuck in this 9 to 5, this comfortable place, this routine of going out on the weekends, working, getting home, going to the gym, going to bed. It is a very habitual routine. So look, my story, plain and simple, is I was never broke because I didn't work, right? All right, I've had some rough patches, right? Over Christmas, I've had rough patches where I have had pennies in my bank, right? I'm saying overall throughout my, working years, I'm 18, I started at 15, 16. I wasn't broke because I didn't work. I always did work, right? But I was broke because I didn't have a clear system to implement my efforts, right? So when I say this is, at work, you can put in 100%, right? And get paid 2K. You could put in 75% and get paid 2K. You could put 50% in and get paid 2K. You could put in maybe at a push 35% and get 2K because it's a fixed salary, right? And I knew that all of my efforts weren't, going into rewards because I was getting paid X amount. I know the hours obviously that I did over time, you can get paid a little bit more. But short-term efforts only compound when there's a pathway of progression that is inevitable and clear, right? And I'm talking short-term efforts. I'm not talking efforts over 15, 16, 17, 18 years that will cause you to have one promotion in a job and get paid an extra $3,000, right? I'm talking a pathway where you can see your track, right? You can see if I put in this many hours a day, I know by week 2, week 3, I'm going to be earning 5K a week or 5K a month, rather than just, going to the same job, working the same hours, not actually getting anywhere. And that's why my kind of vision when I looked to my future was not a 9 to 5, because your short-term efforts are never complimented, are never valued, right? Because you don't have a clear system which can reward you, which can say, well done, which can, give you a high five for your progression, right? So when I actually did go into the online system as such, a lot online space, every move did feel like a guess, right? I didn't know what I was doing. I tried to do it free and I didn't work out. So I tried e-commerce, I tried drop shipping, and guessing only leads to energy loss and a loss of confidence, right? You feel burnt out, you feel tired, you feel like you've hit a brick wall. You feel like every single thing you've tried, it never works out. You tell yourself again, why do I do this to myself? Why do I try these things? Why do I do this? I can never work out. And then you go through that phase and then you start, actually, no, it's not my fault. It was his fault. It was that fault. It was this fault. It was actually this product. It was that fault. So you feel a loss of confidence. You feel energy loss. And this is where most people give up, right? So the hardest part for me was not the money, right? Money is a figurative term for, an imaginary value that you can buy something with, right? It comes, it goes. It can be burnt, it can be grown, right? Literally, it can be made. So it wasn't the money. The money is everywhere, right? But it was having no clear pathway to actually prove my capabilities to actually prove to myself, not no one else, myself, that I can be the person that earns 10K, the person that can go traveling, the person that can have freedom. I didn't have a pathway to do that. I was lost. And this is why guessing caused me to fail so many times, right? But what changed a little bit? Well, I realized that when you chase outcomes, you chase money, you stopped, kind of relying on a phantom idea of motivation, you can actually start attracting, right? You detach yourself from outcomes, right? And this means emotionally, you don't care if you hear a yes, you hear a no, you get turned down, you win. I always like to describe it how, with the boys in the kind of mentorship, there's like a fire in their belly, right? And this fire is a very special fire, right? Where I make their purpose, their need, their want, their need to be here so irresistible that they don't chase outcomes, right? They don't chase the money attached. This is a byproduct, right? And they don't rely on this phantom idea of motivation. Motivation is a symptom to a cause, right? The cause is the thing we make fiery, the motivation, the purpose, the actual push, the providing for their family, the fucking urge to want to kill it and be traveling and go, be able to spend 20K in a beach club for all I care. That's the fire we make in their bellies. And that causes, byproducts like discipline, like consistency. Because once you chase this purpose so much, you need it so much, you don't focus on motivation or money or outcomes, right? You chase fulfillment, you chase the goal, the end goal that's always running away from you. But how quick can you catch up to it? So I started questioning myself, really, what actually attracts money, what actually attracts clients, what actually is compoundable. What can I use for leverage to place myself into a business model, but also have a skill set that compounds itself, that compounds my efforts into the skill set, that will efficiently bring me to my purpose, right? And obviously along the way, attracting money, attracting clients, all of these kind of ingredients that will benefit you. And I'm not saying that money will fulfill you, it won't. I'm talking money will be able to make you more money. You can invest in mentors. Again, I look at money in a different way. But as I said, a real skill that can compound, right? Not just motivation or momentum, reliance, or, waking up and having 7 Red Bulls and, having that momentum because you've had your first sale or you've had your first real trade. Fuck that bullshit, right? What is your purpose? How are we going to get to that purpose? Well, if your purpose is being able to provide for your family by earning X amount, what are we going to do to attract that money? Learn a real skill that can compound, that is valuable to every single person around you, that will be able to be placed into different business models, that will provide real value. As I network, I never ever network with people without providing value first, right? Especially with these people that are higher status, that has more value than myself. I want to impress, I want to provide value. How can you do that? By not having any skill sets that is real. Copy traders, all of these things, it's not a skill set you need to learn, right? No matter how long it takes. So, why sales then, Ethan? Why out of all of these things? Well, I'll tell you why, right? Actually, no, I'm gonna tell you why not first, right? And this could be, if it sounds like no, you don't want to do it, then fuck off, right? But it tests resilience, right? It tests patience, 100%. Not every day is easy. It's gonna be hard, right? Detachment is needed from outcomes, right? Without detachment, you're going to become burnt out. You're going to become attached to no's, and in sales, no's is everything, right? It's the way you overcome them, right? It's going to be frustrating when you have follow-ups that don't turn up to calls, when you get expected to be a piff and their phone dies on the call. All of these little things. You need consistency every single day in, day out. No matter how calls, how many texts, how many calls you're getting on, you need consistency. Communicative skills, always. Obviously, it's sales. You're going to be speaking to people. If you're not comfortable with speaking to people, then maybe get a mentor or know how to socialize, because you're going to have to do it a lot in life. And if you hate dirty amounts of commissions and cash, then that's not for you either, because you can just stick to your 9 to 5 like you are, right? But why? Why is sales the best, right? On the real side. Well, it is the highest leverage skill in the online space, right? I would say, obviously, you have places like e-commerce, building a shop, they're all very high leverage, but sales, again, how do you know how to position a product? Well, you know what's going to click in a human's brain when they see it, the colors, the branding, all of these things, sales, how to sell your product, how to make it come across, selling courses, sales, AI, sales, agencies, sales, everything is in sales, right? It's a professional skill. You can do it corporate, you can do it outside, face-to-face, you can door-to-door, online. It's not scammy, it is not luck, right? It's a performance-based skill. What you literally put in, right, you get out. But with that, there's a system that's needed, right? But the commissions, the money is all based on you, right? It's flexible across markets. As I was mentioning, you can put sales into anything. Everyone needs sales. All the top entrepreneurs need sales, right? It's a life skill to always have. It's applicable to any job, whatever it is. Customer service, car dealerships. It could be vet care. It could be real estate, Airbnb, everything, right? Mindset based. 100%, no matter, 80-20 rule, 80% mindset, 20% skill set, without a doubt. And it improves your understanding of human psychology, no matter, because you get to know how people compute, you get to know people, what fear means, what actually decision means to people, what causes them to make the decision, justification, emotional, logical certainty. all of these technical terms, neurology, the brain and how people make decisions and why they don't potentially. Okay, so what this freedom cell system is that system that kind of provides your rewards for your short-term efforts, your hard work, right? It allows hard work to be a solution, where you brute force your way into the system, where it becomes efficient. The pathway is inevitable. Now, it sounds very cliche, it sounds very metaphorical. What is this system? What are you on about? Well, it's not a course, right? The system isn't a course. It's not information, right? It's a replacement from guessing, from trial and error, from, just luck and trial and hope for the fucking best, right? It is a 4-step, 4-pillared understanding framework that you run through. And this is what, the secret has been to Echelon, I would like to say. The thing we've been gatekeeping. So pillar 1, what is it? Well, skill acquisition. So you need to learn the fundamentals of any skill, right? The basics, the foundations to build on. It's like a house, right? Without concrete foundations, the building will crumble over time. No doubt about it, right? So you need them fucking concretes, you need the brick, the concrete, the cement, all of that to make it work out. So what are these ingredients? Well, the mindset, the skill set, the routines, the purpose, the fire in your belly. You need to discover your need. What is that fire? Your purpose, and obviously your why. All of these things link in, but once you get those 3 things, nothing else will ever be a roadblock, because you always remember in the back of your mind, what are you here for? Consistency, byproduct. Discipline, byproduct. Because your purpose is that fiery. It will cause you to be those things. So the goal is to create that fire in your belly, as I said, to make discipline a byproduct of the need for this goal. It's legitimately an attachment, right? You've got attachment issues from it. It's running away. What are you going to do to chase it? So this leads me on to pillar 2, environment. The most important thing to any success, right? Efficiency success, right? You can obviously become successful without an environment around you. But with an environment, you don't carry this out alone. You have like-minded people who recognize your small wins, your big wins. They give you that accountability that needs to be present to be successful. Not being bumming around, not going out all the time, not eating shit, not going to the gym, not looking after yourself. You need that accountability when you're feeling, like shit. When you're feeling tired, your goals don't care if you're tired. Your goals don't care if you're shattered, if, your belly hurts, if you're crying. Fucking get on with it. But who's going to be there to tell you that? Your environment. So your network also is provided. Through this environment, it creates nodes, it creates relationships, it creates vectors to share information, a central hub to share ideas, right? It's there to learn, to practice these skills. Repetitions is like anything. You go to football training, you go to hockey training, you go to basketball training, you go to, train your 400 meter startup and your swimming lengths. You go to train everything. So this is what you need there, right? Your mentor for coaching, for swimming is there, but you usually get it for free or a very discounted price. Same comes with a life skill. You need a mentor. So it's there to hold standards, to give feedback, and to not let you drift from your purpose that actually took you to start this journey, but to the point where you got fed up, and that's why you wanted to start it in the first place. It's there to fucking pull your ear and pull your hair when you're trying to run away from it, to keep you on track. So once you've got the environment and the skills, the foundations, what's the next step? Or refinement, right? You don't just practice, right? You don't just stay busy. You don't just, repeat the mistakes. I always say a repeated mistake is a silly mistake. A mistake you've learned from is a great mistake. But how do you get that? Well, you get it through feedback on real conversations. Your calls are reviewed. Your messages are corrected. Your objections are broken down line by line. When you get on a conversation, they say, I don't want to pay it. Well, how are we going to break that down? Well, you get your mentor to help you. You get the network, the nodes, the central hub of information to share ideas on how you can approach it. So then you can learn from it and not repeat it. So, as I said, so instead of repeating the same mistakes, you are now constantly tightening and micromanaging what you say, how you say it, and when you say it. So this is how exactly average turns into sharp. And sharp is what actually converts, right? So refinement is probably the most important part as well. You know, they're all equally important, but when you just practice, you're busy. But when you refine, you're progressing, 100%. So after we conquer all of those things, what is the last pillar? Elevation. So when your environment changes, your identity obviously follows, right? Easy as when you're surrounding yourself with, people that don't have ambitious goals, that don't look up to the stars, that don't want to eat, on the big tables, that don't provide any value, that don't know, what they're actually carrying, that don't want to go live and have freedom, right? Your identity will copy and paste. But when you step out, you pick the lonely road. You pick the road no one wants to go down. You surround yourself with like-minded people. Your identity will follow. And that will have to be that identity that you want to get to. It's not just a random identity. Your body will naturally become this. So you stop seeing yourself as someone trying to make money. I'm just here to try. You start actually operating like someone building a professional skill set. Someone that is generally trying to elevate to something. And instead, it's not just a corporate job. When you start off in a corporate job, you start at the basics, right? You start right at the bottom. But you have a purpose to elevate to something. And it's the same thing, but just online. But you need that structure to elevate towards. So that shift is what separates dabblers and just goers from earners. Real fucking earners. This is where you're provided opportunities to further enhance your practical skills and develop the portfolios of skill sets you have. Placement, mock calls with other people, real contact and relationships with valuable people that have years of experience, the opportunity to further yourself, so new offers, new kind of, if you go from setting into closing, management, starting your own offer, all of these kind of pathways to improve yourself, to elevate your echelons. And this is why we call it echelon. And at this point, this is where you get that freedom. So what is the social proof? Everyone wants social proof, so here we go. This was 1 week. No, actually not even 1 week. This was 1 day. I posted on my Instagram. You would have seen it. 1 day this was. Some of them are very small, some of them are bigger. But 3K base, 8.5. So if you follow me, you would have seen these, right? My results and my highlights. So you don't need to see them again. But these guys are only a few of many, right? They're not smarter. They're not luckier than you. They're just no longer guessing. They have a system. They know what to work on. They know how to measure progress. They know what comes next. And when someone has clarity, confidence follows. So it's not just confidence from, hype. It's confidence from competence, right? And that's why people land remote roles. They have that confidence. They go on interviews knowing that they've gone over everything. They've refined all their skill sets. They refined the foundations. They've got the environment around them to provide these opportunities to elevate. This is why they land remote roles. That's why they start earning. They get through the application. All right, everyone can land the role. What's the skill sets? What's the little micro things that are going to push you through the application? The foundations, the refinement, the environment, the mindset. And that's why their life finally feels like it's moving forward. The freedom. And this is where the freedom sales system comes from. Because of that elevation that's inevitable, which will enhance their time freedom, their locational freedom, their financial freedom, because of this exact skill, sales, but provided the system. So why does this system actually work tangibly? Well, this system removes, as I said, a little summary, guesswork. It replaces it with structure. with feedback, environmental standards, right? Most people don't fail because they're lazy. As I said, they fail because they are guessing too many times. So it gives you clarity on what to work on, when to work on it, and how to execute it efficiently. And it doesn't matter about constraints, right? It doesn't matter about, if you have 1 hour a day. It's about being high frequency within that 1 hour. Restraints are actually better than just having the total freedom to do what the fuck you want, right? So it also, most importantly, provides a pathway to success that is inevitable and is consistent in results, as you have seen if you follow me, if you follow my Instagram. And it also highlights the importance of surrounding yourself with people that take improvement seriously. It will push you to elite standards. It's like a football team. If you surround yourself with people in four leagues lower than you, you get dragged down. If you have people above you, you'll get dragged up. You'll be taken to their standards. So what happens? Well, the results stop being random, right? They become predictable. I can predict it. This is the beautiful part. And just to tip it off, psychologically, why does it work? Well, we love psychology around it. And when the brain doesn't have a clear process, it defaults to comfort. Not because you're lazy, but because uncertainty creates stress. Stress makes people avoid hard actions. We don't want stress. What do? Avoid it. So that's why people procrastinate. They overthink, they jump strategies, they forget about systems, and they slowly drift. They give up. Despite caring, I don't care. However, a system removes that chaos, right? It replaces it with certainty. You know what you're working on. You know what is next. You know how to, measure your progress. So this refinement locks in that real skill, right? Through fast feedback, through clarity, through understanding, through not being able to repeat your mistakes the same times for months on end, right? So you replace bad patterns, instead of just practicing them over and over again, guessing what's not working. And then you add the right environment, the ingredients. This is where the high standards and consistency are normal and behavior naturally rises to match it, as I just mentioned. That's why this works, not because of information, not because it's a course, not because it's an offer, because it aligns structure, feedback, and environment. The 3 ingredients that actually change your outcomes. The system, freedom cell system, is those 3 things. And that is why all of our members, like Danny, like Alex, like the other 40 members, have success. One day this was. And if you can't see, a lot of money was to be made. But money is a byproduct because these guys have systems. So what I want you to take away from this is exactly that. These 4 pillars. And I want you to implement them into your day-to-day. Stop guessing. Stop trying to, improvise and trial and error different things of what to say, when to say it. All right? And if you are brand new to the space and you want to get into the space, then my advice is to have a system. From someone that is 18, that has been in the space for a year, that has gone through ups and downs, that has done everything, and now runs a multi-5-figure business per month, does closing, has done setting, runs sales teams. Trust me, a system is what you need.